Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, from the break to the Overwatch League. I'm Mitch Leslie, joined here by Matt Morello, and we are jumping in here for some late night Overwatch. If you're at least in the United States, for those elsewhere, hello, good morning, good day to you all, and thank you for joining us, Matt. It feels like this is like the late night radio version of what we do sort of during daytime Pacific, huh?
Yeah, I'm good with it though. I've been staying up. I've been training for this my entire life. Late night video game grinds. I've been all about it. I got a new coffee machine today. I'm good to go.
Oh man, we are straight chilling. Thank you guys for joining us again. We are going to be kicking this one off, of course. Guangzhou Charge are going to be taking on the Shanghai Dragons. And for those that are familiar, for those who have been staying up or been getting up at the right time to catch this match the last couple of times it's played out, it has not gone well for the Charge. Guangzhou currently 4-4 for this season, but their opponents, a lot of people are saying that, the Shanghai Dragons up there with now the Seoul Dynasty, we've been convinced, are set to rule this region.
Shanghai may be up there, with the Philly Fusion as one of the best teams in the league. But let's talk about the Guangzhou Charge first.
All right.
They come in today, and the biggest change with their lineup is you see no Neptuno in it. Neptuno, I believe he tweeted about it, the team tweeted about it, but visa renewal, so he has to go back home. He has to get his visa sorted out, so they'll have Char in the lineup today.
Well, it's also because Neptuno found out that Echo was out of rotation this week, so he just left. He actually just packed his bags and left the house. So, yeah, good luck to him, of course, getting those issues resolved. And for now, the Charge will be going on without him. Still, though, this team's got a lot of potential. Yep. Obviously, Krong now showing up in the lineup much more. Nero's looked very, very good in whatever sort of position he's been able to fill over the last few games. But, frankly, a lot of people pretty concerned about them up until recently getting that win against the Hangzhou Spark. So we'll have a look at the Shanghai Dragons, though, here, Matt, because there's a lot of hubbub about these guys.
It's just a really tough division for the Guangzhou Charge. I think in any other one, they'd be one of the better teams. The best team, potentially, in the Asian region is the Shanghai Dragons, though. Big addition the offseason with Fleta, Void coming in. Izayaki came on a little bit towards the end of last season, but now he's a mainstay pretty much, and this is a super stacked lineup. What we just saw with the Seoul Dynasty was extremely impressive against the Hangzhou Spark, and I think we're going to see another impressive performance from Shanghai here today, which sets up tomorrow to be an epic match between those two.
Yeah, the fact is the Charge have just struggled to, be in a position where they've looked like they've threatened the Dragons, Matt. This roster, everyone knew it would be looking incredibly good coming out of the gates, but up until the last sort of couple of weeks, the Asian region has only been occupied by a select number of teams. We're starting to see more now, okay, with a lot of our teams with predominantly Korean rosters are actually moving back over there. For example, we're going to see New York for the first time since, I think, week 5 in Washington later on today. So now the competition potentially gets a little bit harder for them. Also, a lot of that scouting that the Dragons did earlier on, maybe isn't as impactful. They've got to now respond to some of these juggernaut teams that are entering the ring. The question is, can they stand up against them? A lot of people, if you're watching this game to see what Shanghai looks like, you want to see a clean team with absolutely no sort of weaknesses showing in this hero pool to have confidence that, for them going up against a team like Seoul.
We haven't really seen a lot of bad play from the Dragons. You look at their map differential, right? When you compare it to like the Philly Fusion, we talked about this on Plat Chat this week, but when you look at the Shanghai Dragons, they've lost, I think, 3 maps overall, and it was all in that series to Chengdu in the loss. They are just about perfect everywhere else.
And look, it doesn't surprise me. Their control maps especially, they've had a really high win rate, so really clean. Like a lot of teams, we see Guangzhou, for example, like 50% on those maps, but Shanghai have really been able to lock those first maps down pretty much straight out of the gate. This team has played, we've seen him in a bunch of different hero pools here. Of course, most recently, it was like the Hangzhou May, Sigma, Orisa combination. Stand 1 looks incredible on this roster.
This week seems to be going a little bit of a throwback to where you're going back to where we were earlier on in the season. Shanghai, they'll play the Symmetra, and they actually get to the point first, which may force some changes out of Guangzhou, but it seems like the team's going to go towards maybe McCree and the May. For a lot of their damage dealers, and you combine it with the Rhine and the D.Va. But Guangzhou, they make adjustments, right? They see that it's going to be the Symmetra on the point. They want to attack from all angles. They want to use Nero on the far up in the sky, put down the damage, and then come through with the Doom and the Wrecking Ball.
This is the combo you really want to see from these guys. Bear in mind, McCree is available to be played right now, but Nero, Chara, this combination, the Fire Mercy, has always looked really good. Shanghai, though, have definitely started with some positional control, and Nero even needs an Icicle from Fleta there, so still looking for a way to get in.
You know what, though? I think Nero, like, as time goes on, he'll definitely prove himself more of, like, a star potential. But I think he's a phenomenal DPS player. Like, I think if he got on a little bit of a team that was performing better, I think a lot of people would be talking about him much differently. As Happy goes in, picks out one.
Yeah, Happy in. A lot of people may be hoping to see him on the McCree as well. Now that's back in the pool, but it is the Doomfist to start things off with, which is interesting in and of itself. Those that follow the charge probably can figure out why. He'll be able to just sit back now. Fled has already been taken down. So the charge, they find one pick and then they stagger and chase down the rest of these kills. DM switches over towards the McCree here, which is definitely the expected response when you see the skies lit up by Nero and Char.
Yeah, and it's what you have to do if you're Shanghai. Like, you can't... The disadvantage for Shanghai's competition there is that when they're playing the Symmetra and they're playing all the dive targets, they have to pick one and charge them down. But Symmetra's not good in that type of playstyle, right? No shields to really gain tons of charge off of. So once Guangzhou gets the advantage, pretty easy for them to take the point. Now the Dragons come back, dive tanks with a Sombra, so the Sombra can get the hacks on a maybe Rio or Krong. There it is on a Rio, and then you can dive.
Nero, again, really trying to make sure he stays out of line of sight from DM. The guy's filthy on hit scan in general. Void really setting the standard for off-tank play, especially out of this conference recently. Someone to be keeping an eye, but Nero, nano boosted, but he got put to sleep already. We're seeing some insanity. Izzyaki down to Happy here, and Happy's going to drop in with a seismic slam and get the job done. EJ Gon's able to find him though. The brick switch now will make life a little bit harder for that Doomfist. Stan 1's going to head back over the wall and out, and Guangzhou come up with the answer. They bring the Doomfist back with the res as well, and they are in good shape. 3 ultimates online.
Yeah, they end up using Meteor Strike, Valkyrie in their nano boost there, so they did commit 3 ults to the fight, and Shanghai, coming off of all those switches, obviously have none. So it's actually not a horrible fight for Shanghai, because now they'll end up building up Rally, they'll build up their nano boost, they're going to get closer towards an EMP here as well, which they could play late game, potentially take this back.
DM doesn't want to be here right now. Minefield around him, trying to find long-range shots on Chara. And look, his damage fall-off is significant when Nero is playing. Look how far away he is. Deadeye, well, damage fall-off, not really an issue with that one. He does at least force Nero out of line of sight, forcing the drop down. Self-destruct thrown in by Krong. That's going to take Izzyaki down. There's the Dragons now operating at a disadvantage. Nero barrage finds DM, and he's going to have a lot of that DM defense matrix to protect him a lot of the time by Krong, and that'll be the cleanup. Shanghai Dragons come into this series looking indomitable, but early on, Guangzhou looked very comfortable with the Fire Doomfist.
And if you're going to... It's interesting, right? Shanghai, if they come out and they play the main McCree at the beginning, Guangzhou probably matches them the entire time. But Guangzhou, they would love to play this type of playstyle where they can play Nero on the far and Happy on other different types of picks and play a little bit more of a Chengdu Hunter-esque type of game, right? Against the Shanghai Dragons, where it's quite interesting how that ended up working out there on the first point. Shanghai showing potentially very strong dive here with Flood on the Pharah and DM on the Sombra. Guangzhou, look, they're coming out. They want to play this standard, right? The McCree with the Mei, the Ryan, the D.Va. It's such a strong composition. And Shanghai, they obviously don't want to play this. They're playing some different things here on Lijiang Tower at the beginning. Guangzhou may go back and they may change. If you're Guangzhou, you consider mirroring this potentially as, yeah, they're going to go back, make some changes.
Why not? Yeah. Guangzhou yet to win a map against Shanghai this season. It's been 2 3-0s back-to-back. They come out, though, and this hero pool looks to suit them just a little bit better. See what Happy now switching over towards the McCree can do. They don't want to match the Pharah.
I almost wouldn't say it's the hero pools as much as the way this map is played out with what Shanghai's done at the beginning of the maps and then what Guangzhou can go to. Because Guangzhou, I mean, their strength, right, is in some of these damage deals. You see Nero, nice translocate in this guy and gets a hack.
Well, it gets him within range to actually go for a hack at all. Happy and Shu are both down right now, so the Charge are really on the outside looking in for the time being. That'll give Shanghai the start that they were looking for. Nero may not have expected that guy to burst the defense matrix to protect DM.
Is
he switching? Maybe he's just done with that. We'll see.
Void in a perfect position there. Ooh, the Happy Widow. So Happy, a phenomenal Widowmaker player. Nope, just goes for the one shot and then goes right back to McCree. So won't play the Widow here.
This is what Shanghai struggled with in the previous round, Matt. It's getting back in against the Pharah Mercy combo. Even the Kree doesn't really guarantee you at all being able to get back in. They're hoping for a gambit from the Widow. Yeah, deal. Somehow,
the
healing.
That's unreal.
Yeah, Izzyaki slams him with the healing. It's going to be an EMP on Nero and Rio right now. Fletcher's just going to take to the skies and try to follow up on that as much as he can, but Shanghai playing at a disadvantage after losing DM there. He is put to sleep as he comes to the ground, and Izzyaki falls, and here's an opening now for the charge. Rio just trying to deal again with what's on the periphery. Happy goes down. Still the charge. Haven't managed to sort of take the point here. The Dragons have a chance to sort of reinforce this a little bit more. Stand one is brought back into the fight. Jagon gets him back up on his feet. The Dragons still control the point.
Yeah, they still control the point. You have a Primal Rage here to keep this going if you're the Shanghai Dragons. You're going to have players coming off the respawn, especially Void now with a self-destruct. You can probably keep this going, you know, 75, 80%.
Oh, you're kidding me. Oh my, okay. Izzyaki over the edge. Rio goes for the Primal Rage. Can't really get rid of Lee Jae-hon. Okay, he almost managed to get towards the mega helipack, but Flair's going to find three with the barrage is huge, Matt. Not a lot for Guangzhou to work with now. Kronk hoping he can get back into the mech after the self-destruct, but he wasn't so lucky. Stand one gave himself up to get rid of the mini D.Va, but Void's still here on point. The Dragons still have the numbers, and the Charge have one more chance. If that, it's Chara's sound barrier that's going to have to lead the way, and they're going to go for the May. Hope it'll curse the Dragons here. 95 and counting.
Yes, they're going to have to use this sound barrier to potentially engage. They may think that DM, though, has another EMP on the other side. We'll see. It looks like one player getting on the point. That'll be a contest here that comes in from Kronk, but this is beautiful here from Lee Zhenggang and the rest of Shanghai Dragons.
I mean, it's not even just Happy getting boofed off the map, man. It's Rio who tried to go in for the charge and got very quickly shunted back towards the rest of his team at like 10 HP. The Dragons will cover much better, and it's crazy to see, you know, what the Pharmacy comp can do when you maintain control or at least win that first fight. The ult economy wasn't marred by having to switch after that first engagement either. This time the Dragons come up with the goods.
And this next point is probably where you'll see them match head-to-head, right? So you move inside, you're not going to see the Pharah Mercy, you're probably not going to see, maybe you see the Doomfist, right? I mean, you can play maybe May Reaper, May McCree, it depends, I think, on kind of what tanks you want to play, but I think you're going to see much different compositions, probably built around the May here.
It wouldn't be a shock. Symmetra to get people out of the gates, although we have seen that teams actually play with shield tanks. We'll try and get value out of Symmetra, but if the Dragons are, yeah, they're going to match, at least in terms of Reinhardt's. Again, it's a bit of a guessing game for us sometimes, whether it's just a Symmetra to speed them forward or actually want to use that. Happy, though, I mean, if he has the option, Matt, it's the Gunslinger. DM, though,
and they
thinks differently.
Yeah, and they come out on the Symmetra again, so they ran this on the first point. They were able to get point control, but what happened was the Guangzhou Charge switched to a dive composition with the ball. You can't exactly do that here, so you may get more value out of the Symmetra against these barriers.
Well, again, you have Reinhardt, and you have the Zarya combination here. Fleta also, the longer the fight goes, both Fleta and DM get stronger. Fleta literally is just going to be able to, you know, feed off enemy teams' health bars, and DM literally charging up and doing more damage. So
and if you're Guangzhou, like, what do you go towards here, right? When it happened on the first point, you went to Wrecking Ball D.Va with a Pharah Mercy and a Doomfist. You can't play that composition here, so way more opportunity for Shanghai to win this in terms of counterpicking them.
That's a really nicely placed wall, though. The Zarya cut out of line of sight. Void couldn't throw any sort of barrier towards stand one at the time that he would have liked, but now as the fight goes a little bit longer, the DPS of Shanghai have an opportunity to get in here. Rio is down, DM trying to play at extreme range. Shu cannot connect, and here's the Graviton surge. Void is fully charged. This could be the turnaround. They lost DM and Izzyaki, but they still trade 2 for 2. With Void going down, Jagon's going to go for the sound barrier here. The Dragons are committing not just for the stall, but for the potential to win the fight. Big shatter, Chara knocked to the ground. Happy trying to find a shot here. Stand one is removed, and if the Dragons come up short-handed here, they'll be missing their Lucio Walt, and they lose control of the point as well. Such aggression from the Dragons.
Yes, the Dragons end up using a sound barrier there in a 2v2, and they keep stand one up, and then he has a shatter. I'm trying to where the rest of the members of the Shanghai Dragons coming off the respawn. I thought we were going to see a mass flood of them in through the teleporter that D.Va had on the point. But
I think they just thought they could win that fight with the shatter.
Yeah, potentially, right? Because you had the Death Blossom coming in from Flooded towards the end of the fight, but still, you got 36%. We're going to be basically about an even game to the point. Starts to be contested again.
Bear in mind, walls do not make Symmetra's beam charge up. It does cost ammunition to burn them down. DM goes for a wall, but Nero pretty much negates him for much of the fight. All he could do was try and break through the ice. Void bundled on out, and the Guangzhou Charge now sitting pretty. Even though the Matt, does he have switch here, Matt? Because he obviously used the Symmetra ult. It's pretty tough with the May walls in his way. Yep.
You have to, yeah, I mean, you have to switch this, as the Symmetra potentially could end up losing Shanghai really the map, right? It kind of cost him a 0.1, and now cost him here is, look at all the ultimates the Charge have here. Beautiful May wall to separate.
They bust the May wall down quickly, but it's not fast enough. Stand1 is standing alone this time around. Izzyaki removed,
and that's the,
and the Dragons have to go again.
And that's the issue with May here at the professional level, is that even when you nerf the wall and it's easier to get through, right? You can fit through one of those slides, it's a little bit easier to burst down. The teams are so good as when one player gets isolated for the Lucio speed boost to come in and just collapse on them. Look at this, Stand1 again, gets caught on the other side of the May wall. Li Jiagan goes over the side and help him, he drops, they lose the tank anyway. This is bad for Shanghai.
The longer this goes on, the more frantic, the more desperate the Dragons get to try and even find their way into the point. Shu taken down by DM here, but it's unlikely really this will bother the Guangzhou Charge too much. They'll back up just because they don't have a ton of front-loaded healing. Really only the aura healing of Chara. This is an opening. Just one option now. One chance for the Dragons to make their way through. Fleta has a death loss. Patiently been sitting on there, but he runs straight into McCree. Fearing the flashbang, he's going to have to Wraith walk away. Playing behind Stand1's shield, it's going to have to be an immortality field thrown down and keep Stand1 in fighting form. Wall thrown out, Fleta in the backline. No, this is what they were looking for. Shouldn't have to go down. He's found a third, and the Dragons, the 11th hour on that. The ticket out of jail was Fleta.
And it comes at the best time imaginable. Nero actually gets a May wall, and then he thinks he has enough players split off with a Blizzard to attempt the Blizzard, and he ends up dropping the Blizzard. Fleta on the flank, though, sees the Baptiste. Shu not even looking at him. Didn't have the Immortality field available at the time. He's able to land a massive Death Blossom. It's interesting, they sent him back to the spawn and they put him on the May. So this is what I think the Shanghai Dragons wanted to see from the Charge originally. They wanted to end up playing into this mirror, but this map's kind of gotten away from them in terms of matching compositions.
Amplification Matrix thrown down, but all the Charge are forced out of the right trajectory to make that work. Shu is down, and this is why the Dragons switched the May. They can control these choke points much more effectively than they could have with just the Reaper and Symmetra, but you need to have the point to make this work.
And you also don't feel bad about switching off of the Reaper to the May when the May uses the ultimate for Guangzhou, Nero pops that Blizzard, and then you use your Death Blossom. So you're both about even, right? Which now has allowed Fleta literally to get even in terms of percentage with Nero, as it's going to be a nice May wall. Fleta catches a few players out. Nothing going to happen, though, because of the sound barrier.
Yeah, but that almost worked perfectly. Chara was on the wrong side of that May wall, the only player cut off for the rest of the Charge. He had to wait and hope his team would stay alive before he went for the beat. Had he used the beat behind the wall, obviously it would have been blocked by line of sight. Fleta has a Blizzard, he's going to throw it in the doorway, and Chara and Jay got to try to fight, but Void turns up the heat in the opening, and now Chara realizes there was no help coming at all. The Dragons on the precipice of losing the first map this season to the Charge, fight back and make it a heck of an exciting Lijiang Tower. This is what we've been missing out on while we've been sleeping in our beds at 3 a.m., man.
Well, what I love there at the end, actually, which is super interesting, is that Fleta's sitting there towards the door. He's got his Blizzard. He wants to actually pop the Blizzard, right? And and Krung goes by because he has to go contest on the D.Va. And once he flies by, Fleta doesn't even freeze him. He lets him just go home free because, well, now there's no defense matrix there, so he can just drop the Blizzard
so desperate
at the door. The Charge have to.
And the Charge they are choosing to split their team up because they have no other choice.
Yep. I mean, they had to, right? They had to go contest.
All right, this is already starting to look pretty good. The Charge showing more signs of life than they sort of had in the past. They're still looking for that first map win against the Dragons. We'll see if they can do that after the break. Map 2 is coming right at you. It's a pleasure to be here. Stick around.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Overwatch League. We are getting your Week 12 weekend kicked off with a bang already. We've seen some great games tonight so far, and the Charger looking like they might be able to hold a candle to the Dragons, at least in parts. But it's another map dropped to them. But Lijiang Tower, Matt, was definitely an exciting affair, at least.
And I think with the Charge, it's never been a thing with them. Like, they don't have the talent to contend with the teams like Seoul Dynasty and Shanghai Dragons. It's like they just fall a little bit short at times, right? Like those big crucial team fights, like the situations where it turns into just like a one-fight game. They always seem to come out on the other side of that. It's just pretty tough as seeing it as somebody who, I like watching the Charge play. It's tough to see time and time again. But as we go into the next map, I expect this to be another close one. I don't think this is a series where Shanghai is going to run away with it, like how we saw Seoul just run away with it over Hangzhou.
Well, I like this one. This map, Paul, actually, I mean, I don't know if people have checked the stats at all. I know you hate them, but this is an extremely good map for Guangzhou. They're 3-0 on this map. The Dragons haven't won this map yet this season. Now, in fairness, they've only played it once, but still, like, if you are a Guangzhou fan and you're looking to see if there's fallibility in the Dragons, then your eyes should be very closely fixed on how the teams play out here on Volskaya.
Well, I think just this year in general, we have to be really careful about how we look at, like, map data in terms of, like, win percentages and stuff for teams, because like it obviously varies so much with opponent, hero pool, I mean, there's a lot, right, in terms of, like, who they're playing, where they located, right? So I think it's like a lot that could be determined, by a lot of other factors. So just looking through the rosters, we do not have a sub on either side. So we get to this one, it'll be Shanghai on defense with Flood and Diem. It'll be the Farah McCree combination. So I want to play this from range. It'll be interesting if Guangzhou busts out the Ashe, as Ashe Widowmaker would be very interesting.
Also, a little bit concerning when it comes to counter dive. If the Dragons, you see it here, they got Stand 1 and Void, so they do have the ability to actually be more proactive as defenders here and try and take the fight, especially with Fledder over the top to the Charge. Happy Nero.
Just checking.
Yeah, we'll see what they deliberate.
Yeah, potentially thinking it's a Sombra pick. So Guangzhou, they'll change and they'll play a Sombra of their own. They stay. We'll see what happens when they. Oh, they're gonna play Rio on the Winston. Interesting. So
Winston.
So you'll have him being able to dive into the back line onto the Ana, let's say, and you can set this up with the hacks.
All right, Nero's just tried to take note of the position there of Izayaki as he went through over the high ground. Now he plays behind Void. Now, does Void try and get hacked early? Does he just try and get some easy ult charge off of him? We'll see that in a sec. So Rio spins on through here. Void is hacked. Okay, so a lot of easy ult charge there for Nero, but he's been playing dangerously. Low on health. Fledder gets baited in, though. That's a big pickup. Jagon, no chance of getting a resurrect there. His teammate was well and truly within enemy territory. The Charge just bait the Dragons in. They know they're playing a dive sort of defense. They know they're going to come forward. They have a player advantage now. They have to compete. They have to capitalize.
It's a super interesting position that Fledder was playing. I mean, so aggressive. It's a nice headshot there from Happy, and then he has one more body shot to finish off Diem. They do get a res off, as this is getting very dangerous for the Dragons.
Oh, Diem just got knocked off the map by Rio here, who's just an absolute menace on the wrecking ball. Happy's able to find Void now, and Stand 1 fares no better. Shu cleans him up, and I mean, whatever way you slice it, Matt, that really started off the back of Fledder pushing over the top of the gate.
And I think he thought he was pretty safe playing over the gate because they had 2-3 players in already, but he didn't account for Happy on the McCree. I mean, he's such a strong McCree player. You gotta show a little bit more respect than that, right? I mean, even if you want to play there at the gate. So now you Guangzhou, fabulous position. They switch to the Rhine here to get through some of these chokes, play a little bit slower, and you can do that because you're playing around this EMP Deadeye combination.
Fledder's decided that the Charge have had too much fun. Time to put an end to that. I'm going to switch over towards the mate here, and the Charge customarily move up to the top right-hand side, so they can't be walled off early on in the fight. Happy knows something was happening above his head. He actually sees Stand 1 drop down, and he is electrified. Can't go for a Primal Rage now, even if he wanted to. He's hacked briefly. Look at Happy try and push forward. Look at all this real estate being taken. Despite how low Rio's shield was, he's able to generate enough threat to get the Charge back through the door. Now, they do pay a Deadeye for that one, but I think he's pleased enough with that result. Void's in trouble. He got hacked up. He's being desperately healed by Jagon from across the map. You see Diem now is trying to force the Charge back. both teams just trying to dance around these Deadeyes. Rio actually got his shield broken. He's frozen up. He got nano boosted. He will have a chance to get some value out of that one with a primal from Stand 1. He just finds Shu immediately. Happy's in trouble as well. And he's a pancake.
Ooh,
okay, Chara. Clean.
Chara knocks him off. This is still a very good sequence of events for the Shanghai Dragons. Guangzhou with a very good push on their point A. And then right there, they blow all their ultimates. They have a chance to maybe go in, make a play out of, but they don't even make any percentage towards the point. As Void's trying to get a mech back, 91%, he can counting. You know, he'll go back to the point. He'll be able to earn this rather quickly. So at least Shanghai, they go on a break here in the defense in terms of supports.
All right, Rio gains ground without having to sacrifice much of his shield HP. No Deadeyes required to get through the door this time. Because it's high noon was not the password. Oh dear, Jacob, that was extreme range. And then he sends Happy as Larry up on the perch and watches the charge now just dither about, knowing that they're missing their mate.
So BM.
Nero is furious. He's so mad right now. Happy's in trouble, and this really is a matter of time. Happy's going to try and turn the fight around with a Deadeye DM. Oh, he gets him first. Happy's going to be forced off another whip shot. Jagon finds yet another. It's just as well because the charge had a chance to fight back. Now, though, that's been taken away from him.
Heavy into that.
Not another one. Oh, God.
They used and Shatter there in the corner. So you already had lost your main.
So this is something that we saw from Guangzhou on the prior map as well, like the way that but Shanghai have done it as well. Remember, Shanghai tried to beat in a 2v2 situation and win a fight with Shadow. So both of these, I don't know,
it's
man.
Much different though. I mean, at that point, right, with Shanghai, you have control of the point, right? You're accruing percentage. I mean, this you're not close to the point if you're the Guangzhou Charge. So it'll be Lijigan using his rally, basically keeping himself up, and then just swinging mace to the face, right? I mean, just blasting people.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, Jagon knows he got caught there, but he knew that he always had to get a jail-free card and rally. Now, he still kept his shield up, and he still played around corners, but I mean, that gave so much time for the Dragons just to collapse on them. Void on this Sigma so far this season has just been incredibly good. He's like tied for second in lowest deaths per 10 minutes, tied for second gravitic flux kills per 10 minutes. Like, his Sigma statistically is just really nice.
He's a sick player in general. Right? I mean, when he got added to the Gladiators, I mean, that was a big addition.
People underrated him on that Gladiators roster, though, because they struggle to fight.
I do think, though, he kind of got, like, I mean, I think he got lumped into, like, when we talked about, like, the Gladiators tank line, with, like, you know, in terms of, like, you know, I don't think a lot of people thought Roller was the best tank for the Gladiators. I think he just kind of got lumped into that, like, the tanks instead of just a tank, so.
Okay, Stand 1 Shatter gets Chara and Shu there. Shu just went for that amplification matrix. Stand 1 just wants to keep his shield up a little bit longer. He's quite happy being split off from his team, providing that they can in turn pincer. Rio has a Shatter himself, and also Nero with a Blizzard. So this is a real opportunity for the Charge. They may not have a better one. Gonna be a Nanoboost on the Stand 1, but can he cross the gap? No, look at the disengage quickly. Rio is just trying to hop, skip, and jump away, and Krong, ever attentive to detail, even gets the defense matrix eat on the Fire Strike, and they buy some time, but the Charge don't waste ults in that fight. It was the Nanoboost and the Shadow that forced the Charge out, but they keep ults. Guangzhou, they got 1 minute to go.
So 4 ults here for the Charge, although they don't have any percentage here on the point. Still, the big thing for the Dragons, though, is having this Blizzard, right? Like, you can have the Shatter, the Self-Destruct, the Sound Barrier. You have to invest, like, 2 of those just to get rid of this Blizzard. And if you're the Dragons, what you can do is you can Gravitic Flux here, that'll force Sound Barrier out, and then just Blizzard right after it. You're in a great spot. Get Rally, too.
Jagon might be trying to, he's playing for the high ground actually out of view, maybe trying to deny a Lucio there if possible. Fletter, cheeky, just hops out of the Blizzard. Stand 1's been taken down, now it's going to be a Sound Barrier. The Charge are committing to the fight. DM sat in the back corner, trying to buy a little bit of time, maybe strike the fear of God into the Charge. But only able to hold them back for a little while. It's enough time, though, for Esports to come back through. Stand 1's going to be back in the fight in no time. And that aggressive charge that Rio spent to get rid of him now doesn't mean a whole lot. Shoes down. Jagon's happy to deal with it even for the time being. Those Inspire procs are keeping him up. And Void, that's exactly where he's sending the Guangzhou Charge. Happy now has no sight line to work with whatsoever. Self-destruct over the top does claim DM, but Stand 1 is still alive on the point. Happy ain't getting anywhere close. And the Dragons managed to hold off on point B. No percentage for Guangzhou.
Guangzhou looks so good, man, at the beginning of that, but then the Dragons just turn up on defense. They get a lot of early first pickoffs, and then they're just being able to have some of those ultimates towards the end. I don't even know if Fled ended up using his Blizzard there. It wasn't even really necessary.
That's a great question. I actually have no idea. I know I saw Nero use it, and Fledder just got out of it with Ice Block.
Yeah, I mean, Fleda didn't use it really towards the end there. I mean, potentially he could have used it at the very end, but didn't see the Blizzard come out.
Well, he's got two Blizzard kills, so it's actually I know we used it earlier on that round, so you might be right, Matt. Yeah. He might not actually have used it at all. Fledder actually only had 4 enemies frozen while he was playing May, so he didn't have to do too much crowd control in those big fights. I have to say, Void comes out with 5 final blows. These teams are really interesting, Matt. There's actually a lot of... I think it's also this hero pool as well, when you look at the Batiste and the Ana in the mix there. A lot of teams are just trying to bait each other or sort of force ultimates out. No one's full committing to a lot of these fights on Boss Guys so far.
No, and the one thing I think you can worry a little bit about the Shanghai Dragons from what you've seen so far in this series, although I still think they're one of the handful of teams in the league you can say are the best team, but the fact that when we've seen them move away from the mirror matchup, right, and you have this like McCree and the May in the mix, they've looked beatable at times, right? Like when they played the Pharah, the Symmetra, and other stuff, they've definitely looked beatable, right? Where Guangzhou's gotten the better of them and other types of stuff. But when they can slow the game down and play a little bit more methodical around the Reinhardt and this type of May McCree setup, they look fantastic.
Yeah, it's why I think it's fair enough, but that's why Shanghai Chengdu is always an interesting matchup, because Shanghai, if they get baited into playing overly aggressive, you see those individual errors creep in, but right now, I mean, they just want the charge to come to them and they're gunning them down. Rio down first. They do lose this Yaki here, so not a lot of burst healing, but both teams have lost their flex support, so it's just Lucio's that both teams are running on. Happy is so dead. He's just a smear on the wall. Like
nobody's ever been dead
on his own, dude. Oh, it's about as dead as you can be.
I mean, that's a point A take for the ages. Is Shanghai? They just get one player split off of the May wall. They burn them down, and then after that, all you got to do is just trade kills out. So Shanghai, they'll be able to take this, and now they're going to have 6 minutes to get 1 tick of percentage here.
It's a lot of time, and I mean, it won't be a huge snowball here because the fight really wasn't that long. So the Charge at least have that feather in their cap. They didn't feed too much. Well, managed to stay in step generally, except for the difference between Rio and Stand 1, which might be a little bit of an issue. Dragon's being a real pain in the behind here. He responds to denied his high ground. Also just turn heads.
Yeah.
The rest of his team can walk through main, and what a creation. Yeah, okay, now the Charge are forced down. Into the Crucible they go, but they get rid of Stand 1 early, who was just caught as a loose end, and the Charge were able to use Chara's speed boost to get in there.
Rio's going to be forced to move forward here, and they have them split off.
Split.
Yeah, well, Shanghai, they have points to be able to, attack from the front and the side here, as they have the Guangzhou Charge split. It's very dangerous for Guangzhou.
Cromsty suited Deadeye could actually be a factor here. DM doesn't even need it now. Druidic Flux. Oh yeah, it has to be an ice block there for Nero to keep himself alive, but he's going to be the only one there. Not unlike May's Cinematic. Sad face. Sound barrier here for the Shanghai Dragons, and they're going to have that tick pretty easily now. Chara desperately hanging from the life. Deadeye attempting from Happy, but he's stunned up midway through. No dice for Happy. Crom desuited. Flater's going to sit back comfortably now. Yep, fair enough. Okay. May Icicle gets the kill on the mini D.Va, and Rio still needs to be dealt with here. It's going to be a mutual stun between the Reinhardt. Stand 1 trying to charge out of the Blizzard here as Nero finally gets that off. Flatter was stunned up. He has his ice block available now, so he'll be able to hang around. He may have used it prematurely there because he thought he was going to get flashed by Happy. That didn't even happen. And Rio is mowed over. Crom now just in full storm mode, and the Dragons, Matt, they had so much time to play with. And that is going to be a quick 2-0 already in the book.
Yes, when it looks like when Shanghai wants to go, they are not playing around, and they're able to just battle right through Guangzhou. They were there on the B point fighting. I mean, look, I didn't get a chance to look at the clock at the end, but if they at worst had 4 minutes left, if that didn't even work out. I mean, just a blistering pace there from Shanghai, one of the fastest on Volskaya.
Yeah, and you see that Shanghai look much more comfortable, Matt, when they're not really fallible to sort of be baited into any of that stuff. They get to dictate the flow of play. If teams can take that initiative away from them or just disrupt the game state enough, it looks like there's openings there, which is why I'm super excited to see what Seoul can do. Also, just the Flatter grudge match is going to be really good.
No, it's going to be awesome.
we'll keep chatting about that as the night goes on. But for now, we're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, your expert analysts for halftime are going to break it down. Stick around. We'll see you in a second.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your game break presented by Cheez-It Grooves. I'm Mitch Leslie here with Matthew Morello. Great casting early on, guys. Thanks for throwing it over to us to break things down to the half. And Matt, Shanghai look like they're on the road to another 3-0 against Guangzhou here, and some shakiness early on, but they definitely managed to get rid of that before halftime.
Well, it seems like the only time we've seen Shanghai either lose fights or even lose matches is when the game gets a little wacky and it gets out of sync, right? Like when Guangzhou was playing some odd compositions, same with Shanghai, they're trying to play some stuff that's not, I don't want to say off meta because the weeks change so much, but kind of off of like the standard types of compositions that you see each week. That's when they seem beatable. But when you see them go into this like May-McCree mirror matchup, that's when they look so dominant.
Now, let's take a moment to, take a look at one of the key factors in the match so far. That's right, it is time for Crunch Time, presented by Cheez-It Grooves. And our Crunch Time now, today, Matt, is centered around a support player, namely Lee Jae-gon. We actually got to see him play a bit more of the Brig. Yeah. Obviously, generally we see him on Lucio. He actually leads Lucio's in environmental kills per 10 minutes and knockback kills. But we saw he was able to provide that same thing on the Brigitte there. Those whip shots were looking nasty, and he especially derailed the charge on one of those attacking pushes into point B.
And we saw a lot of times from his POV on the Lucio going high off up the walls, like going above doorways so he can come from the other side of the doorway. They don't know he's over there, and come around with a boop. Fantastic play thus far. From Lee Jae-gong, and he's a player who's a huge impact for the Shanghai roster early on. Like we mentioned, a ton of new additions this season. It seems like they're so far gone from their season one, the 0-40 Dragons, right? And then everyone last year was like happy they won like a little bit. They win stage 3, and now it's a completely different mindset. Now it's like, oh well, this team may be one of the best in the league.
And I have to agree with production. They obviously showed us that clip of Fleta going absolutely mental on the last map of Lijiang Tower. Now, if I had recorded it in the moment, that probably would have been my crunch time. But my analyst, Matthew Morello, literally told me to come up with it. I was going to talk about my shirt, but Obviously, Fleta, though, on that first map, really saved their bacon by trying to bait out that immortality field.
Mitch is we needed somebody to stand up for the supports, right? Like, no bloodthirsty supports. So Mitch is the one who's going to take that on.
Okay. You know what? We're going to a break. When we come back, we're going to get the rest of this match, Shanghai versus Guangzhou. Oh, dear. I might walk across the hall and leave something nasty under Matt's door. But we'll be back with more Overwatch right after this.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Zip Chair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Shanghai Dragons once more look like they're taking the Charge to task now. Up 2-0 after the half-time, and the Charge might only have one more chance to bring this one back. I know it feels like Groundhog Day for them. I'm quite sure of it, but this is, again, signs of consistent strength from Shanghai ahead of their fated matchup with the Seoul Dynasty.
Yeah, and I think if you're Guangzhou, there's nothing to, even if you lose this to Shanghai, there's nothing to really be upset about. It does not, I think, obviously you'd love to win the match, but this is one of the best teams in the league, and you've taken them to the brink pretty much on both maps, right? You're very close to, you said a really good point A. Your point B doesn't really go anywhere, but on offense, but still, you're winning fights consistently in certain situations. It's just a few certain scenarios where Shanghai just turns into what we believe Shanghai to be, which is one of the top 3 to 4 best teams in the league.
I mean, if you're Guangzhou as well, probably another reason why you're not complaining too much is you probably feel like you are in a great position right now to get very good experience against, those teams that you one day want to beat. It's like being in a hyperbolic time chamber, the perfect training montage for this team to go up against, I mean, New York's now in this region, Vancouver, I mean, well, yeah, we'll see if they still turn up, but the Dragons and the Dynasty all here, and the Charge get the trade blows of them over the next few weeks.
How many teams can you certainly say are better than Guangzhou in this region? Seoul, Shanghai, throw maybe New York in there. We'll see how they play against Chengdu.
We're not certain. I haven't played in weeks.
Right. So at worst, you're like, what, maybe like 4th, right, in what we consider to be one of the toughest division in the Overwatch League. And potentially, depending on how New York and Vancouver turn out, right, you could be like that 3rd dog, so to speak.
third dog? Is that just better to be the higher dog, so you want to be first dog?
Yeah, like
Can't be
top
first
dog,
okay.
you know? You're not the top dog, you're the third dog.
No, that makes sense. I don't know where I was going with that one. And also the Charge, they have a player like Happy on this team, Matt, who, yeah, I mean, here's a stat that may actually be relevant, right? In team fights, across all team fights, all hero pools, he is third in final blows per 10 and third in first elimination rate. So this guy is aggressive. He's looking for first kills on a lot of these fights, regardless of the patch, the hero that he's on. Guangzhou have this real aggression. They just don't want to get, they don't want Shanghai to bait them in here. Both of these teams want to start fights. They want to set the pace. It's like an arm wrestle to see who actually gets to decide when sparks fly.
It's so interesting. You don't have any of your famous one-liners at night. Did your writer not wake up today?
Oh, no, I was using him. You just didn't hear them on Li Zhang Tower.
It just seems like now you've just kind of gone off to the stats end as your writer's kind of taking the night off. We'll see what he can...
help me tell a story.
Yeah,
like I'm building.
We'll see what he can come up
you missed
with
him.
for
I've done
tomorrow.
puns. I'll have more tonight. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm up to the challenge. No drama.
It's,
DM. Not today.
This is where they look great, though, Shanghai. Like if you're Guangzhou, what was working was you're playing a little bit wacky stuff in Shanghai. I was like, oh yeah, we'll play the Pharah and we'll play the Sombra and stuff. This is where they've been great. Is Alicia Young's just going all the way up on the high ground there.
Alicia got best late plans get away sometimes. He wanted to be the one that knocked the Guangzhou Charge down, but they actually opted to bring the fight to the Dragons here, see if they can shake them off. And that looks pretty darn good. Matt Nero found the Lucio and froze him in his tracks.
It's like Li Jiagan's just playing like one of those wrestling games with everybody else is just fighting in the ring, and he's constantly going to the top of the cage over and over. And he's like, somebody come fight me.
He just wants to give him the aerial.
He's like, watch this, guys. And he's just like going all the way up.
Li Jiagan, we haven't allowed the tombstone for years. I don't know. Bringing it back, boys. Watch me drop in. Top rope, still an option for Jagon, but his team control the high ground for the most part. Krong trying to maintain some presence there, but DM's throwing flashbang seems to give him other things to worry about now. So, what does the McCree do from here? Again, target selection is good. It's so funny.
Shu is so dead.
It's just not going to happen. DM finds the pixel that he needed to find the second one. And this is what happens, man, when you're playing with that Lucio here. Your Batiste copped the chunking. He obviously didn't have his AoE heal available. The Chargers still able to trade out. They finally get towards DM on the high ground. Krong is really doing some heavy lifting. Somehow the Charge staved this off after losing 2 players early from that high ground.
Yeah, I mean, Krong was phenomenal in that fight. Same with Nero, right? He puts a beautiful May wall up there to keep himself alive. He's able to ice block, then come out of it. But just the presence of that May, right? You never know if he's going to put his own wall down, come around the corner, start fighting, brawling it out. So, beautiful play there from the Charge to get a first hold on D. See that they're trying to rotate in through the house. This is going to get that wall in trouble.
Technically, Res not fully caught. That sound barrier actually works out quite nicely. Now the Blizzard for him on the Charge. Great time from Nero when he can play from the high ground for a little bit. Immortality field down for Shu, but Happy and Nero have been working this high ground nicely, and they slowed the Dragons down enough while keeping the run-up alive, and that shadow was completely blocked. Shu actually was just off the left side, got caught by it, but Amplification Matrix and Fire Strike, not the real way the Dragons wanted that fight to end.
No, and Stand 1 goes for the Shatter there because when the Matrix goes down, he expects potentially like a quick Fire Strike to come through from Rio, but Rio reads it perfectly, knows that the Shatter comes down, he holds it, because if he goes for the Fire Strike there, that's a big Shatter. As Guangzhou's taken control of the high ground now. Minute 13 on the clock. So the card has not made much progress at all. It's been very strong here from Guangzhou.
This reminds me of Philadelphia Fusion last year. They played, obviously, that sort of high ground composition. Now, they centered around Winston, but the concept is the same, right? Push into the Dragons when they try and take the high ground, try and catch them while they're still coming up the stairs. The Charge haven't been able to do that this time around, and Happy from the high ground, though, was able to get rid of DM. She's sitting in the periphery there. Traded out. There's going to be the Shatter comes through now. Fledder knocked down. Charge still have good formation here, and Rio's healthy enough for them to push onto this a little bit more. Boyd goes for the Gravitic Flux here. They're trying to follow this up maybe with the nano boosted Reinhardt. Whose Immortality field is down. Boyd is pushing ahead. He's looking for something.
Yeah, what they thought they could do is force out a support ultimate with that Gravitic Flux, but they didn't get it. Now they're going to go in with an Earth Shatter nano boost. Stand 1 going all the way around.
That's huge. Krong and Chara got hit by that one as well. They were both shattered to the ground. Stand 1 eventually gets caught as he tries to push through. The Dragons only down 1 player now, and they have a Blizzard to work with, so this gets a little bit tricky. Keep an eye on where Krong is positioned right now. keeping that mech up and healthy is paramount. They throw the wall up, it's going to let it get very close. Fleta drops it in behind the wall, that's exactly what the Dragons were looking for. Immortality field is down now, sound barrier had to be used, but it's not going to be enough to keep Rio alive, and now it'll be the Blizzard from Nero. Can they turn this around? Fleta has gone down, but his job has already essentially been done. Now DM can step up, try and take the mantle away from the May, and he's done a good job so far. A lot of damage pressure towards the charge here. Void down to Krong. DM trying to play around the Reinhardt. This will be an instant flash and a kill on Nero, who won't get away. Stand 1 can push up here. Still a healthy Reinhardt in his way. Rio is convinced he needs to hold his ground for as long as he can. Immortality field gives Rio an extra free swing. Fleta, Stand 1 and down to the charge. Somehow going to break back into this. Are you kidding me? Oh my! The Dragons. It was a good Blizzard. And the McCree there was there for the follow-up, but the charge, hang on.
Yeah, it was the real difference maker there towards the end is the Amp Matrix from Shu. He comes back on that Baptiste, has the ultimate, puts it down, just the extra damage. After the sound barrier comes through, there's nothing that the Shanghai Dragons have to keep them alive through that.
That is, so brutal for the Dragons. They were close. They expected to have had that point locked up with the May wall coming up, the Blizzard thrown in behind it, and you'd expect that to be the case. Clever Chara, he goes for the sound barrier, realizing while it might not keep his Reinhardt alive, it may give the rest of his teammates enough time to regroup. That was incredible. Much better from the Guangzhou Charge. Shanghai, to be fair, looked a little bit shaky. Once Happy managed to sneak up on that high ground or get control of it, the Dragons spent so many of the resources, Matt, trying to force them off. Jagon constantly right-clicking, but now they go with the Farah Mercy on defense here.
And this is when Happy has been able to play like whether it be Widowmaker, McCree, able to get pickoffs here against Fleta pretty consistently. So if you're a Shanghai fan, this is probably not the look you wanted to see from them.
Well, I'll put it this way, Matt. Fleta on May had less damage done than DJ Gon on Lucio in that last round. Obviously, May's not a big damage dealer, and we're not expecting that much from her, but Fleta struggled to capitalize a lot. Tough to get icicles as well. His sight lines were pretty well cut off, but Nero, on the other hand, was able to have 5 final blows. Big impact for the charge here. So keep an eye on that, but Fleta now gets to switch to something that's ostensibly much more his speed.
Yes, we'll see what Guangzhou decides to do, though. This will be a McCree switch here from Happy, so they do have the advantage on the ground, right? If they can just neutralize Fleta and just put some shots in him, then just kind of run down the Shanghai Dragons. They have the advantage with the McCree and the Nay in that type of situation.
Fleta has to be determined not to get a little bit trigger happy like he did on Volskaya and give it all away. Now that way I would recover from that on Volskaya. But if he makes a mistake here, that's going to be the map over to the charge, and the clean sheet against Guangzhou will be done. Fleta, Krong pushing into him there. Happy trying to get the flash over the Reinhardt shield, and oh dear, Stand 1 has to be an immortality field for the charge, but they'll take it. Fleta gets rid of it. Stand 1 somehow gets away with that. I don't understand. The charge unable to push into him, even with the Baptiste immortality thrown out. Now Fleta's trying to play from an off angle. This is actually a really nice spot from him. Stand 1 has gone down, so Fleta really needs to connect these rockets. Krong can't get close enough to put a scratch on it.
Yeah, and they have enough damage here to be able to sustain through this. As you see Chara, he's going to have to back up. You lose a few players there for Guangzhou. Now DM takes out Shu towards the end, so you'll have to back up here if you're Guangzhou. Now Fleta has some better angles here to take. I believe he forced out an ice block there, potentially out of Nero, as Nero gets chunked down to about half HP. Beat Guangzhou moving inside, trying to figure out what angle they want to take here.
Krong has to basically go up to the high ground to give himself, to get him close enough to Fleta. So only one use of rocket boost has to be used so he can get up there and mess with him. Fleta has to be careful as well. A barrage here might actually end up costing him his life, so he needs to be really careful about it. Trying to get position nano boost. Alright, this is pretty telegraphed, so Fleta would be wise for him to hold on to this right now, and he does. He's just going to go for the normal rockets. Happy. Well, years later, archaeologists discovered his earlobe.
He was going to go for the barrage there, but he messed up his conk. Like, he went to go concussion himself out, like, really fast over the top of the Guangzhou Charge, and he actually, like, leaves the edge a little bit too early, and the conk actually doesn't do anything, so he's not able to get any type of momentum going that way, so then he decides not to use it.
He lost a bunch of altitude there as well, but I also don't mind that. Like, what, if you can force out a sound barrier or something similar by just getting nanoed and then not using your barrage, I don't know, like, objectively your barrage is much better with that ultimate, but still. Can he force out? Chara. Oh! Yep, Crom stepped away from him there. I guess he had other things to attend to. Maybe he was worried about Fleta, but while he was busy trying to keep tabs on the Farah, the Lucio gets picked off by the Deadeye and the Charge.
You can already see how this is going to go, man. Like,
no. Don't say it ain't so, Matt.
Like,
Matthew Reginald, I refuse to believe this.
Guangzhou's holding on to all these ultimates, right? And even if they win this fight, we're most likely at a scenario where the cart's not going to make it the distance, where Shanghai will get another attempt. And at that moment, like, if this fight drags on a little bit, Shanghai will have some ultimates coming into that fight. Guangzhou can't invest everything here. They need to hold on to some ultimates to get them over the line.
It doesn't get any better than this for the Guangzhou Charge.
Dude, I mean, this is Nero dies there. I mean, they're in trouble.
He had to use Ice Block early, so Fleta is going to keep the pressure on.
Why keep going into this? You don't have any angle on Fleta here for the McCree. It's bad for the D.Va.
They're trying to set Happy up. They're trying to get Happy in a decent position to do some work. He's looking for Fleta. Void defense matrix. Fleta out of line of sight. The stun comes into Happy. That was supposed to be the playmaking action of the fight, and Happy gets absolutely smushed. Fleta rains it on down. Solar Shadow on DM in the backline. Stand one tries to charge in to interrupt, and there was at least a May wall there, but again, all eyes turn towards DM, and Fleta is continuing to do the work. No, I've watched Season 1 of the Overwatch League. Hello? Imagine these guys want to watch Apex, man. That's just... Oh, God. Fleta is in control now. Self-destruct will be shielded, and that'll be at 3-0 for the Shanghai Dragons. And it seems as if the closer that Guangzhou are to the goal, the harder it is, Matt, for them to capitalize.
Oh, that is a brutal way to lose there for Guangzhou. They played strong, right? They get a fantastic hold on defense, but their offense, I mean, non-existent. Like, when you get down to the Y and your best option against a Farah who's hovering above the choke point, shooting rockets down, is to nano boost your McCree, speed boost him in, and then turn around to try and get the Farah, you're not in a good spot.
I mean, some incredible plays from the Dragons, and you're all now being reminded why they are, in fact, considered the real deal. I mean, Fleta looked incredible across this series, especially at key moments, but I have to say, for consistency, Li Jaegon is going to be our player of the match here, Matthew. It looked fantastic. His Brig is... I mean, it is hard to make it work as Brig. Like, anyone who tries to play her in ranked without practicing her would know that it is very difficult. If your shield's gone, you're in deep trouble. Played that really cleanly. You wouldn't know because you don't even know that she exists. But crucially, when it came to the Lucio play, controlling that high ground and making sure Fleta was not under threat from Happy on that last map there in Rialto. I mean, really fantastic performance across the board.
I mean, the Lucio and the Brig, right, with a lot of the displacement, the Mercy pick there towards the end, really strong on defense. I don't even know if he dies there for Shanghai. He was a huge difference maker today for the Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah, Shanghai again. Now they've really set up an epic encounter against the Seoul Dynasty. Yeah. That one, if you're in the US, you have to stay up for that one. It could be, I mean, arguably our two best teams in the league now.
Without doubt, yeah.
Obviously, teams like Philly and stuff are showing up over here, but it's the strength of competition that these guys have and the strength of schedule to go against. I would definitely expect that one to be absolutely massive. Great to see the Seoul Dynasty back in the mix. But another team, Matt, who I am very excited to welcome back into league play is the NYXL.
Oh, yeah.
They're going up against the Chengdu Hunters right after this break. Now, these two teams have only ever played once before. And it was the first time that New York were handed a 4-0 loss. So a little bit of, animosity there perhaps, but NYXL,
it's been a bit.
We need to see how they're shaped up. Of course, yeah, the result doesn't matter, but it's just a fun little bit of flavor to throw in. So stick around, guys. New York are back up against Chengdu right after the break.